Namaste, all my beautiful people. How are you doing today? And welcome to the Alternate Point of View. My name is Tracy Lee. I want to welcome everyone who is new to this channel and everyone who keeps coming back for more. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for watching this channel, liking this channel, subscribing to this channel, and supporting this channel by buying me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/Racy, RACEY 0000, and buying merchandise, which will be appearing tomorrow on my channel. So I hope you'll take a look at it. I'm super excited about it. So we are continuing our journey down the rabbit hole more of the Samantha Wall trial. We are going to go through day one of witnesses, and we're going to break down each of their testimony just to kind of get an idea of some, uh, hindsight is 2020 kind of questions. Like, what would you or I on the jury would have asked? Because the jury was allowed to ask questions. So the only time they were not allowed to ask questions was when Jeffrey Herbstman, the ex-boyfriend, was on the stand. They did not, for some reason, ask him any questions. I'm not sure if they weren't allowed to or if they didn't have any. I wouldn't imagine that they didn't have any questions for him. But I did kind of realize and see that they didn't have any questions for Jeffrey, but I would have had a lot of questions for Jeffrey. So we are going to get into the first day of testimony. I'm going to stop a lot, talk about it, say some things, talk about some body language and things like that. I am not a body language expert by any means, but again, I was certified in interviews and interrogations years ago, I know, but I have seen the interview and interrogation techniques have not changed much over the years at all. Most police departments still use the read technique. There's another technique that I was trained in using, which was Wicklander-Zawalski. That technique was better because we had to have all of our evidence buttoned up in a bow, in a box, everything ready to go before we actually sat our person down and talked to them. Mainly because we weren't cops, obviously. We were in loss prevention, and our people we didn't read Miranda rights to. They had every option to sit in front of us or not. But that was what the Wicklander-Zawalski technique was all about, was because you did build that rapport and you built that sort of conversation with that person and made it so they didn't want to leave the room, that they wanted to tell you everything that you already knew the answers to anyway. And also, you didn't need the confession necessarily because you already had the evidence. That is the entire purpose of Wicklander-Zawalski, is that you already have the answers to the questions. You already have your facts and your evidence in check. So you don't have to lie to the person that you're interviewing or interrogating because you already have the evidence. So you don't have to make stories up like, well, why would your DNA be at the scene? Why would your fingerprints be there? Or why would we see you on camera? Like, you won't have to make up these stories and basically kind of clickbait a person in to lie or make a false confession in order for you to get the person to say something to put themselves in a situation that they were never really in. And that is basically what the read technique does. Is it meant to get truthful, lawful confessions? Yes, of course. But for the most part, when a cop is allowed to lie to a quote unquote suspect or person of interest, that does breed a lot of false confessions. And I think that has been proven over time that, the fact that police officers are allowed to lie does cause people to make false confessions because they just want to go home. They just want out of that room. They want out of that space, and they'll say whatever they have to get out. And that's what they think is going to happen. So that is why I really believe that, until you have all the evidence against that person, you shouldn't be able to lie to them to get a confession out of them. And we're going to see that when we go through this trial some more. But why I'm saying all of this is because I'm looking at these people's body language, because that is part of the training of interviews and interrogations, is you look at people's body language when you talk to them. When someone is very open, very forward, very talkative to you. They're not folding their arms, they're not leaning back, they're not doing things like that. That means they're willing to tell you things. They're open. They're like, hey, here's my information. You'll see that difference when they have Jeff in the interview room and when they have Michael in the interview room. Jeff is like this. He's all closed off. He's like a mouse. And Michael is more like, what do you want to know? What do you need? I'll tell you everything. He's like shoving information down their throat. And they're just like, nope, that's not what we want to hear. You tell us what we want to hear, and then you can go. So there's a big difference in the way that Jeffrey was treated. Even though Jeffrey was being treated with kid gloves, he was completely treated differently than Michael. And you know, at the same time, you have Michael being treated just berated, basically. And Michael's just like, what do you want to know? I'll tell you whatever you want to know. So let's go through this. I think I've explained it well enough for everyone to understand, but let's go through these witness testimony for day one of the trial. And let's just talk about each one of them and how they look and what the prosecution's point is, what they're trying to get to, and see how their narrative matches this 420 timeline that they are trying to squeeze in for this deletion of Samantha. So they are going off again. We will go through this. October 21st, 2023, Samantha Wall was taken off of this earth. And the prosecution's timeline is 4:20 a.m. That's it, 4:20 a.m. Because that is when motion was detected on her ADT motion sensor in her living room. So literally from 4:20 a.m. to 4:20 a.m., they're saying that Samantha was attacked and deleted off the earth in literally 4:20 a.m. to 4:20 a.m. because her system went into idle mode at 4:22 a.m. Now, in order for an ADT system alarm code to go into idle mode, there has to be no movement for 1 to 2 minutes. So if there's no movement for 1 to 2 minutes, that means there had to be no movement from 4:20 a.m. to 4:22 a.m. So that means in 0 seconds, Samantha would have had to have been attacked and taken out in 0 seconds. Make that make sense. They do not have an estimated time of death on the autopsy report because the medical examiner did not put it on there. The medical examiner also did not put a cause of death, but they put a manner of death, right? You have to put a manner of death, which was homicide. But they didn't put a cause of death. Did she bleed out? Was she strangled? Was she shot? Was she, whatever. They didn't say specifically which was the wound that actually caused her demise. They didn't say anything like that because the autopsy was not complete. Okay. Also, when you look at this time frame, Michael was seen on a crosswalk bridge at 4:23 a.m. So that was over a quarter a mile away. So they're trying to fit this narrative into this time span that is almost impossible, actually impossible to do because they're going off of an ADT alarm system movement rather than an actual estimated time of death by an actual doctor. So I want everyone to pay very close attention to what is being said by these witnesses. And this is why the prosecution in their opening statement said there was not going to be any direct evidence linking the defendant to this crime because they had to painstakingly go through all of this stuff to link Michael in the area at all. So let's watch this testimony, and you're going to find it interesting because I'm finding things interesting going back and rewatching again all of the testimony because it's funny to me to see and hear these things again because like wow. So we are going to look at the first officer on the scene.
Spelled DERRIK, last name DOUD.
Was that 2 R's?
Yeah, 2 R's.
Okay. Thank you. Never seen.
Good morning, sir. Where do you work?
Detroit Police Department.
And how long have you been a police officer for?
2 years at this point.
Okay, before we go any further, I just want to start off by saying that nearly every single person that gets on the stand that works for Detroit has less than I'll be generous and say 5 years experience. These are children. They're like they have no experience. So this is what I'm going to try to, I'm just going to say this nicely as I can. The level of expertise and education that Detroit requires apparently is nil.
And were you working as a police officer back on October 21st of 2023 at around 6:30 in the morning?
Yes, sir.
And who were you working with at the time?
Officer Preston Q.
And were you dressed in like a standard police uniform, or were you like in an undercover uniform? How were you dressed?
Standard police uniform, marked.
And when you say marked, are you talking about like the police car that you were in? Or the clothes?
The police car is marked as well, but I was referring to badge, full uniform.
All right. And were you equipped with a body camera at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, were you dispatched at around 6:30 in the morning to 1368 Joliet Place?
Yes, sir.
And why were you dispatched there?
For a dead person observed.
Okay. And do you remember specifically what time you were dispatched?
After referring to the radio log on our system, it said about 6:38 a.m.
And did you also complete a police report?
Yes, sir.
And did you recall whether you noted in your police report what time you were dispatched?
Yes, sir.
And what time was that?
That is 6:38.
Okay. And so that information that you received, did you receive it over the radio or on a phone? How did you get the information?
On our system, our computer-aided dispatch, we call it CAD, on the events, as there's a tab that you can look at what time runs were dispatched, times that are received, everything like that. And what I referred to in the report was the label of the dispatch time. So when I said unit dispatched, that's what I referred to.
And so from wherever you were when you first received the information about that potential scene, do you recall how long it took you to get from where you were when you first received the information to the location itself?
Referring back to the radio log, we arrived about 6:48 a.m. So about 10 minutes.
All right.
Approximately.
And did you have to take a car to get there?
Yes, sir. We were in the marked scout car.
So while you were in your car, did you do anything to find out more information about any potential occupants that were living in that area?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So can you just describe what you did?
So prior to our arrival on scene, I checked through our lean system the address that was provided through our dispatch of 1366 Juliet Place and checked who was the occupants of that location. The only occupant of that location was Samantha Wolf.
All right. So if I can just break this down a little bit, you mentioned something called the lean system.
Yeah.
What is the law enforcement information network? Just briefly, if you can summarize that.
It's a system that we use that we can run names, addresses to find out information. So he was registered to an address, we run firearms, vehicles, all sorts of things. It's a network that's used by law enforcement to check on information as such.
And are you able to access that from your police car?
Yes, sir.
And so you managed to look up the potential homeowners at 366 Joliet?
Yes, sir.
All right. And along with the name, were there any photographs that you're able to access of that individual?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay, I just also want to notate, you guys, that this little bitty guy here. The verbiage he uses, I understand he's a police officer, right? But the way he uses it is hilarious to me because it's like he's just trying to sound tougher than he really is. Also, I want to point out that he literally has a tattoo of a old school like Casio digital watch that says 420 on it. I mean, yeah, that's just, you're a cop. That's awesome. So yeah, I know it's legal up there, whatever, but I'm just saying, that's awesome.
There's a lien photo that's provided when you run somebody's name, and I observed that lien photo just in case it was that person prior to arriving on scene.
And so, did you arrive at that location?
Yes, sir.
And so, just describe what occurred when you got out of your car and you arrived there.
So upon arrival, we were met with medics, spoke with the medics. They walked us over to where the victim was located. At that time, they showed us where the trail leading out of her residence was, and that she was next door.
So if I can actually stop you here for a sec. Now you referred to medics. Are you referring to like EMS workers or medical professionals?
Yes, sir. EMS. Yeah.
So they were already there by the time you got there?
Yes, sir. They were already on scene.
Were there any other police officers besides you and your partner?
Negative.
And
No
I'm
other.
sorry, what was your partner's name?
Preston Q.
Okay. So the EMS workers directed you to go to a location. And so describe what you saw as you were approaching the location that they directed you to.
As we approached where the body was located, we observed a trail of blood exiting the residence of 1366 Juliet Place. Followed the sidewalk out from the residence, south on the sidewalk, and in front of it. If you're walking south, you make a right to the walkway that leads to the residence of 1368 Juliet Place.
Now, when you're approaching 1368 Juliet, did you make any observations about whether or not there were any individuals who appeared to be suffering from some form of trauma?
Yes, sir. While approaching 1368 Juliet Place, I observed the victim in a fetal position on the sidewalk in front of the residence.
Now, did she appear to be moving at all when you first saw this person?
No.
Did that person appear to be breathing at all?
No.
Did you notice any apparent injuries or trauma to that person's body when you first approached them?
So there was a large amount of blood. And when I say large, I mean there's a large amount of blood. She was covered in blood. But the position she was in, she was covering her she was in a fetal position with her arms up to her chest. So it's hard to observe neckline, arms, anything. She was wearing a hoodie as well. So we were unable to observe like any of her body other than her hands, her face, obviously. So to answer your question, I'm sorry, we were unable to observe any marks, any injuries.
Other than the suspected blood
Other than the large amount of blood.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that she was wearing a hoodie. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it was a blue Tel Aviv hoodie.
Yeah. Any other noticeable things about any articles of clothing she was wearing other than this hoodie that you?
She was not wearing shoes.
Okay,
She wasn't wearing shoes. No.
just completely
Mic a
barefoot.
little closer to you, just to make sure everyone can hear you.
She wasn't wearing shoes.
So, do you recall whether she had socks on or was she completely barefoot?
I believe she did not have socks on. She was completely barefoot.
All right. So when you saw, and let me ask you this. When you approached this individual on the ground, were you able to look at the person's face?
Yes, sir.
And when you looked at her face, did you make any observations about her?
Yes, sir. When I observed the victim's face, and after observing the lean photo of Samantha Wool on the lean network, the images matched. So I believed at that time it was our victim, Samantha Wool.
All right. Had you ever met her before that day?
No, sir.
Okay. So your identification is purely based on looking at a picture and then looking at the person on the ground.
Yes, sir.
So after you saw this body on the ground, did you ever walk back to 1366 Joliet?
Yes, sir.
And just describe why you decided to walk back to 1366.
So at that time, I advised my partner, Preston Q, to stay with the body. I walked over to the location 1366 Juliet Place. The screen door was closed. The main door, the wooden door, it was open, about 45-degree angle.
So actually, let me stop you here for
Yeah.
a second. So this particular townhome, it's got a screen door. Is that like a solid screen door, or can you see through the screen
You
door?
can see through it.
All right. And is there a heavier entry door, I guess, behind the screen door?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All right. And just describe how the heavier interior door was.
In relation. Yes. So if my left hand were to represent that screen door and the heavier main door was my right hand, it would be about 45 degrees open this way, being the hinge this way. So if the screen door opens this way, the main door opens this way.
All right. So before you ever go in and you're just standing outside 1366, are you able to see into the interior of that townhome?
Yes, sir.
When you were standing outside, did you notice whether any interior lights were on inside 1366?
Yes, sir. I observed what looked like one light in the living room of the location. I could only, at least from that point, I could only observe the light, shining from the corner of the room.
And at least when you were out there, around 3:48 in the morning, was it still dark outside, or can you describe the lighting conditions?
You said around 3:48 in the morning,
Yes. Do you recall?
as in the afternoon.
No, I'm sorry. 6:48 in the
Yeah.
morning. When you arrived there,
Yeah.
can you just describe what the lighting was like when you first got there?
It was nighttime.
Okay. So from your position on the outside of 1366, you were able to see that there was a light on inside.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when you were standing outside, what did you decide to do at that point?
At that point, I placed on latex gloves, opened the screen door, entered the residence. At that time, I observed a large amount of blood collection at the top of the let's say the basement stairs, the landing, and the main hallway. I tiptoed around, made sure I didn't step on any of the blood. Tiptoed, went around the blood. At that point, I was in the living room.
Okay, so let me
Yeah.
actually cut you off here for a second. You mentioned that before you went in, you put gloves on.
Yes, sir.
What was the purpose of you putting gloves on?
Preservation of evidence, so I didn't contaminate the scene.
All right. And you also mentioned that when you went inside, you were describing that you tiptoed around.
Yes, sir.
So were you trying to be careful when you were walking around on the inside?
Yes, sir. Very careful.
What was the purpose for doing that?
Because at this point, obviously, I was thinking we had a homicide scene, so I didn't want to contaminate the evidence at all. So I used my best ability to make sure I didn't step in any blood.
Now, at this point, I believe you said you'd been a police officer for 2 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it your job when you were working that night to investigate homicide crimes, like as a detective?
No, sir.
Okay. Are there other police officers whose job that is?
Yes, sir.
In terms of collecting evidence, swabbing items for DNA, is that another one of your job responsibilities?
Negative, sir. That's
Okay.
not.
So, if I understand what you're saying, you're making an effort not to touch or do anything when you're
Okay,
inside.
That's
Yeah,
leading.
That's leading.
All right. So, as you proceeded into the entryway of the home, just describe what you saw.
As I proceeded in the entryway, I observed a large amount of blood. To the left of me, there was in the small hallway that leads to the kitchen area. There was a kitchen table. I observed there was a bowl of fruit that was turned on its side with the fruit knocked out, which I thought was a little irregular. That was weird. So I tiptoed over the blood to make sure that I didn't step in any of the blood. I then was standing into the living room with the location. At that time, I observed the couch in the living room. I observed there was a tray of beets that looked like rice, that was knocked on the floor, a laptop on the right armrest that had blood on top, a half-eaten banana on the left armrest. I was checking the rear door to see if it, was an entryway or an exit way, and I observed that it was locked.
Okay, so let me stop you here for a second.
Yeah.
So what was your general purpose in going into 1366?
Well, the general purpose of me entering the residence at that time was, one, to gain more information when I made the call to homicide or notification control to let the detectives know what we have, what the scene was, and then two, to check the residence if somebody was inside the residence and whether there was other points of entry or exit.
Okay, so when you went.
Okay, so I just want to point something out because this trial has already happened. This case has already happened. So based off some things that he said, so now that, because we're going back in time and we are replaying what he's saying. So and we are picking every witness piece by piece. Okay, so we're picking this apart. So I want to talk about what he said. Okay, just so far. All right, so he says there is a trail of blood from her door, okay, apartment 1366, and I have a picture of 1366, okay. 1366 is right here. Oh wait, you can't see it. 1366 is right here, which means she came out of here and went over here. She's found somewhere in front over here. So that means of the trail, a trail of blood. Remember, he said it's dark outside. It's dark. Okay. She's found over here somewhere. All right. He said it's dark outside. There's a trail of blood. Now he has to get through that trail to get into her townhouse. So how is he tiptoeing? I want to know where you're tiptoeing through. Now, also he said that she was covered in blood. Lots of blood. She was in the fetal position. She's wearing a hoodie. All you could see was her hands and that she had no shoes on. But large amounts of blood. That's what he keeps saying. He keeps talking about this blood, lots and lots of blood. There's so much blood. Okay. And he could see her face. And then he says, okay, this is a very interesting thing that I didn't catch the last time. Okay. Now he says again, it's still dark. 6:48, still dark. Okay. He sees blood on the screen door. And there's one light in the living room corner that is on, just one light. So I don't know if he has his flashlight on. He doesn't mention that. He doesn't mention that he turns his flashlight on. He does mention that he puts gloves on. He says there's blood, lots of blood. He keeps mentioning how much blood there is. There's so much blood. Okay. I want you guys to remember this, that he keeps talking about how much blood there is. Okay. There's so much blood, right? I mean, you could just be swimming in the amount of blood there is, which does not make sense. It does not match the narrative that the prosecution is spinning here because there's so much blood. But what I find curious that he mentions is that he says there is a laptop on the arm of the sofa with blood on it. Where is the laptop? Where is the data from the laptop? Because the prosecution claims that she was asleep on the sofa. And what about these other things that were thrashed about on these beats or something? He said were also thrown about besides the fruit that was knocked over off the table. So he's saying, so there's definitely some type of struggle that happened. So what is up with this laptop that had blood on it? What was her last login? What was she doing on the laptop? Where's the data from the laptop? So I'm curious if they have all this data from Michael's phone, from all this tracking and surveillance video from what Michael was doing. What was she doing on her laptop? What is the last login? What is the last anything on that laptop? They have her last touch of her cell phone. They have the last outgoing message that she sent on her cell phone, but they didn't test her laptop. I find that very strange. So that's a question. There's a question that I would have as a juror. Where is the laptop? And what was the last thing she was doing on it? When was the last time that she was on the laptop? Is what I would want to know. So we'll continue with little man's testimony. Okay, so I also want to point out just one more thing, because he said he went in, okay, to what also bothers me, you guys, is that he said that he went into the living room, he saw all this blood, that he tiptoed around. Okay, all right, here's my other thing. What he didn't do was he didn't clear the house. So most police officers, and he's a rookie, okay, most police officers, if you find a person deleted, you will go in and you will clear the home, and you will make sure that the perpetrator is not still there. So you wouldn't leave your partner outside. You would wait for backup, first of all. You would call for backup. He wouldn't have, what he did was he went in first. They already were aware that there was a body, a situation. EMTs were out there with the body. So he and his partner would have gone in to clear the residence. They would have already called for backup at this point. Gone in and cleared the residence. I'm not a police officer, so please, by any means, if there are any police officers out there, please correct me if I am wrong. But he did not clear the residence, okay? He literally just said he didn't do anything else. He went in and saw all the copious amounts of blood and tried to tiptoe around it, and then went through the kitchen and came back out because there was no blood in the kitchen, okay? Also, I want to point out the timeline, again, of the ADT alarm system, okay? According to the prosecution's very own ADT alarm system data, the living room motion sensor does not show motion from 4:20 a.m. It shows motion. Then it goes idle at 4:22, and there is not another motion sensed in that living room until 7:52 a.m. So either this cop is lying about going into that townhouse by himself, or that ADT alarm system is not as trustworthy as the prosecution is trying to hang its hat on. I'm just saying, because if the ADT alarm system did not have another motion sensed until 7:52 a.m., when all these cops and crime scene technicians started going through the scene, then that would beg to question, who is lying? Who is wrong? Is the ADT alarm system that believable? Is it that accurate? Or is this little redhead under 2-year experienced officer who would just go into a crime scene and not clear the crime scene and make sure that the perpetrator is not still there without his partner go in and not set off the alarm system? Is he so tiny of a man that he can't set off an alarm system? Can't set off a motion sensor? I'm just curious. I mean, and also all the blood, just covered in blood everywhere. Sidewalk, all the way from her townhouse, all the way to where she was. And I'm gonna keep emphasizing this copious amount of blood, because I just want you to see why we have to keep talking about how much blood there is, because this is going to come into the first person that finds her.
For this scene, we had K9 MSP at the location as well. So dogs searching the area, the immediate area, and us going through the bushes, seeing if we could find a knife or some type of weapon used in the crime.
Now, just talking about what you did, what did you do to look in the area for potential items of evidence?
I searched through many of the bushes in the area. Even climbed inside the bushes, checked the grounds, checked to see if there's any blood, anything like that.
And did you find or recover any items of evidence when you were doing this canvass of the area?
No, sir.
Okay. In and around this area where you had discovered the body as well as 1366, did you do anything to try and prevent civilian people or non-police personnel from accessing that area?
Yes, sir.
Can you just describe what you did?
So prior to, we had a sergeant from number 7 make the location to give us crime scene tape. But prior to that, we stood in front of the location and ensured that nobody entered the residence and ensured nobody walked on, at least at that time, that section of the sidewalk that we were on. Later, after our sergeant made the location, he provided a crime scene evidence tape. We taped off the whole area.
And so while you were there trying to prevent people, non-police officers, from getting into that area, did you have any problems with non-police officers interfering in that area?
Oh, not a single one. No.
Okay. Now, have you had an opportunity to review any of the footage from your body camera that night?
Yes, sir. Just one.
All right. And when you were able to review that footage, was it a fair and accurate representation of what you personally experienced that night?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, at this point, I would move to admit People's Proposed Exhibit 9.
No objection.
People's Nine will be admitted.
And at this point, Your Honor, we're going to publish it.
Are the jurors okay, or do you need a restroom break? Can we see the video first?
It's only a couple minutes, Your Honor.
We're almost going on 2 hours now, so.
This judge, you guys, like seriously.
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah. Which vinegar you use? Oh, we're renegade. They, we don't know how long. I'm sure it was neighbors. They're walking their dog. They don't know like what happened. They don't know. So it's been down, how long it's been down, but there's there was a blood thing. She had like find her she's like right next to her. Uh-huh. Do you have an ID? We didn't serve the tape. So like if you look on the ground with like spots of blood, yeah, you'll see there trail of blood upstairs. You get some blood that goes up into here. Yeah, it goes. Yeah, hi, sir. Yeah, I ran the address. This is Wool. Yeah.
Now, officer, just in terms of how your body cameras operate, when they're activated for whatever reason, is there sometimes a delay from when the audio turns on?
Yes, sir.
All right, so that is typical when you've had an opportunity to observe your body camera footage?
Yes,
before?
sir.
Okay. I don't have any other questions.
Do you anticipate a long cross or?
Not
Okay,
great. No.
then we'll take a break after your cross.
Isn't it funny how they did not show his body cam footage of going into her townhouse? You would think that that would be pertinent to show as well, so that people could see how well he tiptoed around the copious amounts of blood in the townhouse. And maybe that would explain how he didn't set off the motion detector in the living room, seeing as how the timeline of the ADT alarm doesn't show any motion in that living room from 4:20 until 7:52 in the morning. I'm just curious, how is it possible that he went into her townhouse and the motion detector sensor didn't go off? I would really, really love to know that. That's great investigative work there, Detroit. Amazing investigative work there. Yes. Good job, Detroit. Good job. Great job, Wayne County. You guys are on a roll. You couldn't figure this out? What the hell? You guys are great.
Good afternoon, officer.
Good
Oh,
afternoon.
good morning.
sir.
I'm sorry. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Getting ahead of myself. So it'd be fair that you arrived on the scene roughly around 6:50, correct? In
No,
the
sir.
AM.
Yep. 6:48, but yes, 6:50 approximately, if you want to say.
6:50. Okay.
Yeah.
But we would agree that at 6:50 on this particular exhibit, you were still in your car driving to the location, correct?
No, we arrived at 6:48.
Okay. And you indicated that the medics were already there, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're unaware of when the medics actually arrived, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. And they pointed to you the 1366 address, correct?
It was noted in our dispatch as well. That's how I ran the address.
Okay, good.
But
When
they
you arrived on the scene, they physically pointed out that particular address, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay. And you didn't ask the medics whether or not they entered this property or opened the door, did you?
No, I did not.
Okay. So you don't know whether or not they opened the door and went inside to look around, correct?
I do not.
Okay. Now you indicated that when you saw the body, her arms were against her chest, correct?
Yes, sir.
In somewhat of a fetal position?
Somewhat. Yeah.
Okay. Did you attempt yourself to engage to see if she had a pulse?
Definitely not. No.
Okay. Had you attempted to do so, you would have to possibly lean over her body, correct?
Yes, sir. If I attempted that.
Okay. And was her arms in the position where if you did try to check her pulse on her neck, your arm would have came in contact with her?
Possibly, depending on how experienced you are.
Okay. And are you trained in CPR?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would say you're pretty experienced?
I'd say I'm experienced.
Oh, okay. Was her back exposed? Any part of her back exposed from your observation?
As observed also in the video, a small part of her back.
Small part of her back? Okay. Now, you indicated that you tiptoed around this apartment, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it was dark on the inside other than some light you stated, correct?
Yep. And I was using my flashlight at the time.
Okay.
Now he says it.
And this light didn't illuminate the whole apartment. That'd be fair, correct?
Which light are you referring to?
The light that you stated that was on, the lamp.
Oh, no. It didn't illuminate the whole apartment.
Okay. Did you put any type of protective gear on your foot or your boots prior to walking inside the house?
No, sir.
After leaving the apartment, did you ever check your boots to see whether or not you had accidentally stepped into blood?
No, but I actually I did check my boots once I made it over the original, the large amount that was in the hallway, and I was standing in the living room.
Okay.
I remember because I was making sure I didn't contaminate the scene, get any blood on me
Okay.
or blood on my shoes. I made sure to look to see if there was any blood. And at that time, there was no blood on my shoe.
Okay, at that time. But the
Yeah.
question was, when you left the apartment, upon you doing your protective sweep,
Mhm.
at that point in time, did you check your boots for blood?
No, sir.
Okay. So at that point in time, you can't definitively say whether or not you stepped in some blood by accident, correct?
Well, I walked to the kitchen to prevent that, but
You can't definitively say that, correct?
yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you indicated that you canvassed the area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You didn't indicate that in your police report that you canvassed the area, did you?
I'd have to refer to my police report to see if I
Okay. If you refer
noted
to
that in there.
if you refer to your police report, would that refresh your memory?
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yeah.
Thank you.
He's like, oh crap. Hold up. Wait a minute. I forgot the details in it. Devil's in the details, man.
You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got me.
And to be fair, can I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
And to be fair, I'll strike that question. That is indicated there. I'll strike that question.
You should be allowed to answer the
Go ahead,
question.
ask the question.
Yes, I did indicate that in the report.
Okay.
I referred to as scouts.
Okay, fair enough. And you spoke to some witnesses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you indicated that one of the witnesses was Kevin Moore, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and Jessica Robinson, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it was your understanding after speaking with them that they did not touch the body at all, correct?
Yes, sir.
That calls for hearsay.
No, I was just understanding, not what they said, whether or not he understood if they touched the body.
He could only know that by talking to them and hearing what they told him.
Well, I'm gonna allow it.
All right, thank you. I'll repeat the question. It was your understanding after speaking with them that they did not touch the body, correct? At all?
From their statements, yes.
That they did not touch the body, correct?
Yes, sir. That they did not.
Okay. And you indicated that in your police report, correct?
Oh, I'd have to refer to the police report if I indicated it on
Okay,
there.
but that's your understanding, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, just when did you run the lien on the when did you run the lien?
Prior to our arrival,
Okay.
after we were dispatched.
Okay. And it was your understanding that this happened at 1368 Joliet, correct?
No, because the dispatch location was 1368 Juliet Place, but within the CAD notes, it stated that the victim, or I forget how exactly how it stated, whether they're reporting party or victim or witness at the time. I mean,
Okay.
but it stated that the persons that were already on scene believe that they seen the trail of blood exiting 1366 Juliet Place.
Did you run multiple addresses or just the 1366 Joliet?
Just the 1366. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't run the 1368?
No.
Okay.
Oh, he's a little tired of being the star right now. He really enjoyed it at first.
Thank you all. Sure, no further questions.
Redirect.
I don't know.
Questions from the jury? Write down, council approach.
I want to know, where is the laptop
Stephanie, you can go through the well here.
information, and where is the body cam of him going into her house? Why didn't they show that? Why are they just asking him questions about him going in there when they can show the body cam? He didn't mention anything about going upstairs to clear upstairs.
When checking 1366, did you check upstairs or downstairs?
Thank
with the
you.
whole unit before exiting the unit for the first time?
For the first time, no.
No.
I didn't.
See?
Did you go in the second time?
Yes, sir. No, yes, Your Honor.
And did you check the second time?
Yes.
Any further follow-up questions based on that?
When you went in the upstairs or the downstairs, did you see any people inside the apartment and other parts of the townhouse?
No, sir.
I don't have anything.
And just how much time had passed from the first time to the second time, approximately?
I couldn't remember approximately because at that time it was only us 2 officers, and to preserve the scene, preserve the body, I had my partner stand out there after my first initial walkthrough, and then we both stood to make sure that nobody entered that whole walkway area. So it wasn't until the arrival of other officers, like as in
So you don't,
sergeant, evidence techs, everything else.
so you don't know?
No, the approximate time I'm not sure.
Any further questions? Thank you, sir. You have-
Okay. So, yeah. So, just the one witness, and there's already holes right out of jump already. There was a laptop sitting on her sofa with blood on it. There's just blood everywhere, you guys. Blood everywhere. Blood on the sidewalk. Blood on the body. She's covered in blood. There's blood all over her townhouse. Just copious amounts of blood. Just blood, 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 blood. And he's having to tiptoe around all of this blood. And he doesn't even clear the townhouse. He doesn't go upstairs. He doesn't do any of the things that cops normally do to make sure there's not still a person in the house, or not possibly another victim in the house. He doesn't do any of those things. So where is the laptop information? Where is, like, where's the last login? What was she doing on the laptop? What is anything? Where's the information of the laptop? Where is that data? And where is the body cam footage of him going in to her townhouse? If you can show body cam footage of him outside of her sidewalk, why can't you show body cam footage of him going into her townhouse? Because the last information of that ADT log that they're so hinging on says that living room sensor did not show movement from 420. There was motion, and then at 422 it went idle, and it did not show movement again until 7:52 a.m. So what was happening? Did no one go in her townhouse? Does the ADT alarm system not work properly? What is going on? Why are we depending everything on this 4:20 a.m. motion sensor if it didn't even pick up the little leprechaun guy? I just want to know. I got questions. So that is just one witness that we can have a bunch of questions for. And I think that the prosecution and the Detroit Police Department need to go back and question. And I'd like to see that body cam footage. I want to see proof that he went in there. Because why are we questioning him about what he saw when you can just look at the body cam footage? That doesn't make any sense to me. So that is all for that witness, you guys. We'll be looking at the next one in another video because I know your attention span is about that of an ant. So we're going to go on into another video for the next couple of witnesses, and I will see you in the next video. I appreciate you all so much. Please do not forget to like, share, subscribe. And don't forget, you can buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/racy0000. And I am not monetized, so don't forget about that. And there will be new merch showing on this channel starting tomorrow. And I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for watching. And 감사합니다.